the name of Yahshua.
Open up your eyes.
In the name of Yahshua.
You're no longer blind.
In the name of Yahshua.
Behold, standing right.
In the name of Yahshua. Yahshua.
Truth and light.
In the name of Yahshua.
Open up your eyes.
In the name of Yahshua.
You're no longer blind.
In the name of Yahshua.
Behold, standing right.
In the name of Yahshua. Yahshua. In the name of Yahshua.
Open up your eyes.
In the name of Yahshua.
You're no longer blind.
In the name of Yahshua.
Behold, standing right.
In the name of Yahshua. Yahshua.
Truth and light.
In the name of Yahshua.
Open up your eyes.
In the name of Yahshua.
You're no longer blind.
In the name of
Greetings
Yahshua.
from Yahweh and Yahshua's temple. This is the Hebrew husband and wife ministry. We're broadcasting from Evanston, Illinois. And we are going to start a sermon entitled, The Difference Between Doubt and Unbelief. Let's start out in Hebrews, the 4th chapter. The difference between doubt and unbelief. So there is a difference between doubt and unbelief. Doubt is caused by not having heard, so you don't know. When the word is heard and not believed after it is heard, unbelief is activated. Hebrews the 4th chapter. So there's a difference between doubt and unbelief. Doubt is not having heard, it's not knowing. Unbelief is after you hear, not believing or refusing to believe. Hebrews chapter 4, and we want to read verses 2 to 3. Hebrews chapter 4, and let's read verses 2 to 3, please.
Hebrews chapter 4 and verse 2. For unto us was the doctrine preached, as well as unto them. But the word preached did not profit them, not being mixed with faith in them that heard it. Verse 3. For we which have believed do enter into rest, as he said, as I have sworn in my wrath, if they shall enter into my rest, although the works are finished from the foundation of the world.
All right, praise the mighty Yah. It says, for unto us was the doctrine, Yahweh, as well as unto them. So it's talking about those that believe and those that didn't believe, refused to believe. It says, but Hadabar Yahweh did not profit them, not being mixed with Immunah, or believing it, in them that heard it. After they heard the word, they refused to believe it. It says, for we which have believed, when we heard the word, we believed it, we became believers, we do enter into Shelomah, or rest. As he at the Mar says, I have sworn in my wrath, talking about the unbelievers, if they shall enter into my shalom, although the works were finished from the foundation of the world. He said he knows who's going to be a believer and who's not going to be a believer. That's really finished from the foundation of the world. He's just given us the privilege of living it out. Go to Titus, the 1st chapter. So unbelief is caused by what is chosen to believe. Titus, the 1st chapter. That's why he said be watchful of what you hear and what you see, because you're actually building up your belief in what you hear. It says faith comes by hearing. So if you're hearing a bunch of garbage and mess on the news, or you're hearing a bunch of garbage and mess around you, then you're developing your faith in the garbage and the mess. So unbelief is caused by what is chosen to believe. And when it comes to the word, it is chosen not to be believed. Titus, the 1st chapter, verses 15 to 16. Titus chapter 1, and let's read verses 15 to 16, please.
Titus chapter 1 and verse 15. Unto the pure all things are pure, but unto them that are defiled and unbelieving is nothing pure, but even their mind and conscience is defiled. Verse 16. They profess that they know Elohim, but in works they deny him, being abominable and disobedient, and unto every good work reprobate.
All right, it says, unto the pure, or the believers, all things are pure. What Yahweh said in his word, we believe it. But unto them that are defiled, he said, and unbelieving. So you see that being defiled goes with unbelieving. We're going to look at what this English word means in a minute. Is nothing pure. So there's an ulterior motive in everything. This is what unbelievers, why? Because they're following the enemy. They think like the enemy. It says, even their mind, even their paying conscience is defiled. It says they say they Yada Elohim, but when you look at what they do, it says they deny him. They don't do the things of Elohim. Because they're what? Abominable, disobedient, and unto every good work, what he says to do, they're reprobate. We're going to look at that word reprobate also. So unbelief is being defiled. He said, but unto them, unto the pure, the believers, all things are pure, but unto them that are defiled and unbelieving, nothing is pure. Nothing is as it seems. You can't be sincere. You can't be genuine. You can't be real. Pessimistic. Unbelief is being defiled. So let's look at what these 5 English words about this being defiled. What does that mean?
The 5 English words, unto them that are defiled, are one Greek word found as Strong's Blue Letter Bible number 3392. Thayer's Greek lexicon defines them as to dye with another color, to stain, to defile, pollute, damage the purity or integrity of, contaminate, soil, often for and in a physical and a moral sense, of licentiousness in a moral sense, and absolutely men defiled in a ritual sense.
All right, so this defiled means you've been dyed with another color. You contaminated, you stained. What you contaminate with the color of. You contaminated with the cover of unbelief. You contaminated with the cover of refusing what Yahweh said after you heard it. You're contaminated, you're soiled in a physical and moral sense. Absolutely defiled in a ritual sense. Go to Jude, the 1st chapter, so we can look at this defiled. Jude, the 1st chapter. Really, there's one chapter, but Jude. We want to read verses 6 to 8. Jude, chapter 1, verses 6 to 8. Looking at this, unbelievers who are defiled and unbelieving, and nothing is pure to them. Let's read it, please.
Jude, verse 6. And the angels which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation, he had reserved in everlasting chains unto darkness, unto the judgment of the great day.
Now, this is talking about Hasatan and talking about his demons. And to Hamalakim. These are the fallen angels or demons that followed Hasatan. Hasatan is included. Which are not their first estate. Got kicked out of heaven. They left their own habitation. It says, so now, Yahweh, because they had heard his word. After they heard it, but they refused to believe. They became unbelievers. It says, he's reserved them in everlasting chains under darkness unto the judgment, Hamishpat, of the great Yam. All right, verse 7.
Verse 7, even as Sodom and Gomorrah, and the cities about them in like manner, giving themselves over to fornication and going after strange flesh, are set forth for an example, suffering the vengeance of eternal fire.
So now here's some of these fallen demons, the angels that kept not their first estate. Even as Sodom and Gomorrah, the cities about them, give themselves over to fornication. There's a demon of fornication, going after strange flesh. There's a demon of strange flesh. He said, so they're going to suffer this same judgment, which is the vengeance of eternal fire. Verse 8.
Verse 8, likewise also these filthy dreamers defile the flesh, despise dominion, and speak evil of dignities.
All right, so the filthy dreamers, they defile the flesh. In other words, demons that are hanging around these people, or these people that open the door to, they defile the flesh, going after strange flesh. They despise dominion. They despise the word, Yahweh telling them what to do in the word, and they speak evil or ra of dignities. Of those of us that have been made the nobility following Yahweh. Go to Hebrews the 12th chapter. So unbelief is a demonic agent of the enemy. Unbelief is a demonic angel or agent of the enemy. Go to Hebrews the 12th chapter. And let's read verses 14 to 15. Hebrews, the 12th chapter, verses 14 to 15. This brings to mind where somebody was telling me about how they're friends with a sodomite. And going to stand up in my face and tell me how they always going to be friends with the sodomite. And I'm thinking to myself, I hope you'll let go of their hand when they get thrown into the lake of fire. But call themselves going to come up against me. Not always. Well, hey, that's you. You got a choice to do what you want. Hebrews 12, let's read verses 14 and 15, please.
Hebrews chapter 12 and verse 14. Follow peace with all men and holiness, without which no man shall see Yah. Verse 15. Looking diligently lest any man fail of the grace of Yah, lest any root of bitterness springing up trouble you, and thereby many be defiled.
All right, so we're looking at this being defiled and unbelieving. It says, follow Shalom with all Adam and Kadash, without which no Adam shall see Yahweh. Well, if you don't care about going to the kingdom, fine. It's all good with you. But if you do care about it, it says, look diligently, lest any Adam fail of Ha-Hain of Elohim. Because if you fail of the grace, if you fail of the wanting to do better, if you fail of the wanting to please Yahweh, it says a root of bitterness is going to spring up. It's not going to trouble anybody else. You can be deceived into thinking it's troubling somebody else, but it's going to trouble you. And it says, and thereby many be defiled, because everyone is not a believer. Go to Titus, the first chapter. So unbelief is a demonic companion of bitterness. And that's another agent or angel of the enemy. So unbelief and bitterness go together. Go into Titus, the first chapter, and then we'll read these, the Hebrew words where it talks about bitterness. What is it talking about bitter? You know, when you taste something that is bitter, you kind of wish you hadn't tasted that. So what does it mean when it's talking about a root of bitterness in a person? Titus, first chapter, we will read verse 15, please.
Titus chapter 1 and verse 15. Unto the pure all things are pure, but unto them that are defiled and unbelieving is nothing pure, but even in mind and conscience is defiled.
All right, so we saw that defiled. In Hebrews, it talks about bitterness. So let's look at this. It says, unto the pure, the believers, all things are pure. They give people the benefit of the doubt. But unto them that are defiled and unbelieving is nothing pure. They don't give the benefit of the doubt. They say, I got to get you before you get me. That's the enemy's way. But even their mind and conscience is defiled. So when it says this root of bitterness, if you don't follow Shalom with all men, give them the benefit of the doubt, but don't give them too much doubt. Now when they show you who you are, believe the badge that they're flashing. Believe what they're showing you. And let Yahweh go to Yahweh and say, okay, what is this person showing me? That's going to stand up and say these mean, nasty things to me. It's going to stand up and act like they're in support of the temple, but then are not. What is this showing me, Father? You don't get upset with the person. You don't get upset with the demon. You take dominion over the demon. So these English words is bitterness, but this unbelief, it springs up into bitterness, and it troubles that person. So they already troubled. The devil's already kicking them in the teeth and blacken their eye. Let's read the bitterness, please.
Okay, the two English word of bitterness are one Greek word found in Strong's Blue Letter Bible, number 4088. Thayer's Greek lexicon defines of bitterness as bitter annoyance, irritation, equivalent to extreme wickedness, a bitter root, and so producing bitter fruit. Metaphorically, bitterness, for example, sharply strong hatred.
All right, so when you see these people coming, these are the demons that are coming with this unbelief. Unbelief is a demonic agent of the enemy. So he's got this demonic companion of bitterness, and he's got that bitter annoyance and irritation, extreme wickedness. He's got bitter fruit and got that sharply strong hatred. When you come into their presence, there's always that undercurrent of annoyance, undercurrent of irritation. What is that? That's the demons having a party in that person. That's the demons with that wrath, that undercurrent of wrath and sharp and strong hatred. But he said, unto the pure, all things are pure, but unto them that are defiled and unbelieving is nothing pure. Why? Because the demons are running the show. The enemy is running the show. It says even their mind and conscience is defiled. So let's look at this English word, unbelieving. We saw what defile means. They got that sharply strong hatred. That root of bitterness, annoyance, irritation running within them. All right, let's see what this unbelieving means. Okay, I'll read it. The English word unbelieving is a Greek word found at Strong's Blue Letter Bible number 571. Thayer's Greek lexicon defines unbelieving as unfaithful, faithless, and not to be trusted. Unbelieving is being deceitful and untrustworthy. A person unwilling to believe, of Thomas disbelieving the news of the resurrection of Yahshua. It is of those who refuse belief in the doctrine with the added idea of a lack of reverence for what Yahweh said, especially for God, and having a reverence of wickedness. So let's go to Luke, the 12th chapter. Luke, chapter 12, and verses 45 to 46, please.
Luke chapter 12 and verse 45. And if that servant say in his heart, my master delayeth his coming, and shall begin to beat the men servants and maidens, and to eat and drink and to be drunken. Verse 46, the master of that servant will come in a day when he looketh not for him, and at an hour when he is not aware, and will cut him asunder, and will appoint him his portion with the unbelievers.
All right, it says, but if you or I, a believer, call yourself a believer, if you say in your pay or your mind, my Adon delayeth his coming, and he shall change over, well, if you're not a true believer, then you're just perpetrating. You were faking anyway. It says, and begin to beat the men servants and maidens, and to eat and drink and to be drunken. It says, Ha'adon of that Ebed will come in a day when he looketh not for him. He's going to surprise him. And at an hour when he is not aware of. Why? Because he's going to keep that secret from the unbeliever. It says, and will cut him in sunder, cut him off, and will appoint him his portion with the unbelievers. Well, he's already with the unbeliever. His portion is already with the unbelievers. And as long as he doesn't get caught, then he does what he wants. So let's read we have the words for pure. It says unto the pure, all things are pure, but unto them that are defiled and unbelieving is nothing pure. So let's read these English words. What does it mean? Nothing is pure to this unbeliever, to this one that's got this sharp undercurrent of wrath and of strong hatred. And the hatred is for what Yahweh said. Okay, let's read what that English word pure means, please.
The English word pure is the Greek word found in Strong's Blue Letter Bible, number 2513. There's Greek lexicon defines pure as physically purified by fire, in a similitude like a vine cleansed by pruning and so fitted to bear fruit. In a Levitical sense, clean. For example, the use of which is not forbidden imparts no uncleanness. Ethically free from corrupt desire, from sin and guilt as respects the heart, free from every admixture of what is false and sincere, genuine joined with blameless and innocent, Hebraistically with the addition of pure from, for example, unstained with the guilt of anything in a Levitical and ethical sense.
All right, so believers, he says, are purified by fire. This, to the pure, the believers, all things are pure. It says in a similitude like a vine cleansed by pruning and so fitted to bear fruit. In other words, they're in the master's hand and the master is pruning them and fitting them so that they bear fruit. So they're becoming more like the image that's held up before them, the image of Yahshua. Well, the image that's held up before unbelievers is the image of the enemy of Hasatan. So they're being stomped on and pruned to become more like the enemy. Go to John, the 20th chapter. But he said in Luke that, hey, the master's going to come at a time when the unbelievers are not aware and going to accord him his portion with the unbelievers. And his portion's already with the unbelievers. Going to John, the 20th chapter. He's already fully immersed in their doctrine, rejected after he heard Yahweh's doctrine, what Yahweh said. And unbelievers act like everybody is doing wrong. Nobody is honest. Nobody is sincere and genuine. That's what the scripture said. And to the pure, all things are pure. But to the defiled and unbelieving, nothing is pure. Nobody's honest. Nobody's sincere. Nobody's genuine. They contend everybody really has a selfish, ulterior motive. That is how the enemy thinks. That is how that demon of unbelief has them thinking. But they're choosing to think that way. So there's a difference between doubt and unbelief. Unbelief is evil. John 20, let's read verses 24 to 29, please. John chapter 20 and verses 24 to 29. Read.
John chapter 20 and verse 24. But Thomas, as one of the 12, called Didymus, was not with them when Yahshua came. Verse 25, the other disciples therefore said unto him, we have seen the Master. But he said unto them, except I shall see in his hands the print of the nails, and put my finger into the print of the nails, and thrust my hand into his side, I will not believe.
All right, so here's Didymus. It says he was one of the 12 disciples, and Yahshua came and showed himself after his death, burial, and resurrection. And so here's the other disciples. When Didymus came back, he said the other disciples, or Tamim, the other disciples therefore murmured unto Didymus, hey, Tamim, we have seen our dome, we've seen the Master. But he said, I'm not going to believe. He just made up this arbitrary criteria for himself. This is what unbelievers do. They say, I'm not going to believe it. They say, I believe what I see, I believe what I say, and really, unbelievers are believing what the demon is telling them to do and say. Says the other disciples, therefore, they told him, hey, we've seen the master, but he said unto them, unless this happens, I can touch him and put my hand into his side. He said, I will not believe. See, you become pure saying, I will believe. You become defiled and unbelieving saying, I will not believe. And you don't just say it with your mouth. You say it with your life. You say it with everything about you. You even say it with your aura. You even say it with your spirit. Verse 26.
Verse 26. And after 8 days again his disciples were within, and Thomas with them. Then came Yahshua, the doors being shut, and stood in the midst, and said, peace be unto you.
All right, bless the mighty Yah. So here's 8 days later, after Thomas had made this statement, I will not believe, declared himself an unbeliever, defiled himself, said his disciples were in the same room, and Thomas was with him this time. Said, then came Yahshua. The doors were closed, but he came through the walls. And he remarked, hey, Shalom be unto you. So here's Yahshua. Now we're going to find out, did nobody have to tell Yahshua that Thomas stood up and declared himself, defiling himself, talking about he's an unbeliever? All right, verse 27.
Verse 27. Then said he to Thomas, reach hither thy finger, and behold my hands, and reach hither thy hand, and thrust it into my side, and be not faithless, but believing. Verse 28. And Thomas answered and said unto him, my master and my Elohim. Verse 29. Yahshua saith unto him, Thomas, because thou hast seen me, thou hast believed.
All right. Praise Yahweh. So here is Yahshua. Did nobody have to tell him? Don't nobody have to tell none of Yahweh's believers who is an unbeliever, who is defiled and unbelieving. It said, reach hither your finger, look at my hands, put them in there, put it in my side. He said, and stop being a unbeliever. See, faithless means you're an unbeliever. He said, but get to believing. Then Thomas said, oh, my master and my Elohim. Well, what happened? See, there's no epiphany. You don't just flip the switch and start believing in Yahweh and start doing better. You don't just have this aha moment to where, okay, I'm going to do right by Yahweh now. I'm not going to sin again. It's a process. And unbelievers are defiled and unwilling to go through the process. They just are more content to relax in their flesh and do how they feel. Like Thomas said, hey, I will not believe. He could have just as well stood up and said, I will believe. But he said, because you've seen, and Yahshua let him know, look, Yahshua marked him, Thomas, because you have seen me, you have believed. He said, you messed up. He said, Barak are they which have not seen and yet have believed. Why? Because Yahweh said it. It's enough for Yahweh to say it for believers. Unbelievers, defiled people, want to see something. What you see with your natural eye is nothing to convince you of what's actuality in the spirit realm. That's just Hasatan putting on a feature show for you, putting on a horror show for you, putting on a lying wonder for you. Go to Titus, the 1st chapter again. So the difference between doubt and unbelief is unbelievers put their word above everyone else's. We saw Thomas said, You know, he's hanging out with the disciples, had been with Yahshua. All of a sudden, you all lying to me. Calling the disciples liars, calling them dishonest, calling them not genuine. The disciples weren't the problem. Thomas had that unbelief demon. So the difference between doubt and unbelief is unbelievers put their word above everyone else's. Titus 1 and 16. Titus chapter 1. And let's read verse 16, please.
Titus chapter 1 and verse 16. They profess that they know Elohim, but in works they deny him, being abominable and disobedient, and unto every good work reprobate.
All right, bless the mighty Yah. So unbelievers, stand up and claim. Oh, glory, 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 hallelujah. Love Yahweh, love Yahshua. Oh, I just love my temple. I love what they're doing for Yahweh. They profess that they Yada Elohim. Love being a Hebrew. But in works, after they heard his word, what he's telling them to do, he said they deny him. The works that they're doing, they're shoddy, or they're non-existent, or there's something he didn't tell them to do, or there's something that they're doing so then, like Thomas, except I see it, so somebody can look up to them and value them and think they're so good and so nice. He said, in works, what they do, they deny him. They are abominable and disobedient in what they're doing. And unto every good work, what Yahweh said in his word to do, they're reprobate. So let's see what this reprobate means, because it sounds like it's something bad. The English word reprobate, it says in every good work. Now they'll do some bad works. That unbelieving demon, have them stirring up strife and stirring up and telling somebody some dirt against somebody, or twisting something that you said or that you did, or say a hurtful, fiery dart word to try to stir up some hurt and some anger in somebody else. But in every good word now, they're reprobate. What does that mean? That they're lacking in that.
The English word reprobate is the Greek word found in Strong's Blue Letter Bible number 96. Thayer's Greek lexicon defines reprobate as not standing the test, not approved properly of metals and coins, others, hence which does not prove itself to be such as it ought, of sterile soil in a moral sense, hence unfit for something.
All right, so it says in every good work, they're reprobate. So the scripture says that they say they know Elohim, but it says they don't prove themselves to be such as they ought. All you got to do is look at them. Just a matter of time. People can only pretend for so long. The real them is going to come up and out. And believe the real them when you see it. It said, but they're of sterile soil in a moral sense. Hence, they're unfit to do these good works. That means they're reprobate. They can't do it. Go to Matthew, the 13th chapter. Matthew or Matthew. They're sterile in a moral sense. Matthew, Matthew, the 13th chapter. Hence, they're unfit to do these good works. To do every good work. Blocked from doing all of them. They can't even do one or two. Every good work, they're blocked. They're reprobate. They're sterile soil. Matthew 13. I'm going to read verse 23. Matthew chapter 13. And verse 23. Let's read it, please.
Matthew chapter 13 and verse 23. But he that receives seed into the good ground is he that heareth the word, and understandeth it, which also beareth fruit and bringeth forth some 100-fold, some 60, and some 30.
All right, bless Yahweh for clarification. He said, he that receives seed into the good ground. So ground is soil. He's talking about people. Is he that hears the word, Shamar the word, Shamar Hadabar, and being it, understands it, which also bears fruit and brings forth some 100, some 60, some 30. Go to Romans, the 1st chapter. So ground is soil, and defiled unbelievers are sterile soil, sterile in a moral sense. They are reprobate, sterile soil. Romans, the first chapter. And sterile soil is unable to produce offspring. It's unable to produce fruit. And it is barren and in a state of bleak and dismal emptiness. Romans, the first chapter, we're going to read verses 24 to 32. Romans chapter 1, verses 24 to 32. And let's read it, please.
Romans chapter 1 and verse 24. Wherefore Elohim also gave them up to uncleanness through the lust of their own hearts, to dishonor their own bodies between themselves. Verse 25. Who changed the truth of Elohim into a lie, and worship and serve the creature more than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen.
All right, bless the mighty Yah. So Yahweh is talking about these unbelievers who worship themselves. The demons got them worshiping themselves. It says, wherefore Elohim also gave them up to uncleanness through the lust of their own pay, their own mind, valuing their word up above what Yahweh said, refusing to believe what he said, to dishonor their own Gibeah between themselves, worshiping each other, who changed Ha'eminah Elohim into a lie, refuse to believe it, and then want to come and tell you it's a lie, or it's not what it says, or it's not what it means. And Shaka, worship, serve, and bow down to the creature, to a man, to themselves, worshiping themselves. That's what they're really doing, just like the enemy. That unbelieving demon got them worshiping themselves more than the bara. And the bara is barak, forever. Amen. Verse 26.
Verse 26. For this cause Elohim gave them up unto vile affections. For even their women did change the natural use into that which is against nature. Verse 27. And likewise also the men, leaving the natural use of the woman, burn in their lust one toward another, men with men, working that which is unseemly, and receiving in themselves that recompense of their error which was meet.
All right, praise be to Yah. So here's Yahweh. He's dealing with the physicality of sodomy, but the people in verses 24 and 25 is dealing with themselves. So it's dealing with them in a way of worshiping themselves, bowing down to themselves. But it says 26 and 27 that this cause Elohim gave them up into their vile affections. For even the women changed the natural use into that which is against nature. Women loving women, marrying women. It says likewise also the men, leaving the natural use of the woman, burning their lust one toward another, trying to find another hole where they can stick something in. Backwards, reprobated their mind. Men with men, working that which is unseemly, and receiving in themselves that recompense of their error, which was meet, inconvenient. But with that defiled and that unbelieving and that reprobate mind, men will stoop lower and lower and lower. They'll have animals involved in everything else. Brings to mind about this gentleman I was working with, and he moved here from Florida. And he was a sodomite before he moved, and then he got here and got in a sodomite relationship. I think he was maybe in his late 20s. And he was so unhappy, and he was a nice person and sitting at the desk not too far from me. So we would talk every day, but not really about anything of any consequence. And then he was there several months, and then he ended up killing himself. And there was a co-worker. She, thought he was a nice guy too, and she was talking about how she was going to go to his, and I might have mentioned this to you before, she was going to go to his repast, and they were going to have it at the sodomite bar that he hung out with. And I told her, no, sister, I can't go to that, his repast, can't go to his funeral either, because I think they had it at a sodomite church. I said, so I can't go to either one of them. And then she told me, well, you know, I'm going. I said, yeah, well, you believe something different than I believe, so go right ahead. Verse 28.
Verse 28. And even as they did not like to retain Elohim in their knowledge, Elohim gave them over to a reprobate mind to do those things which are not convenient.
All right, so how inconvenient. He said, but they started it. It says, after they heard his word, it says, even as they did not like, they refused to retain or keep Elohim in their life, in their knowledge, in their mind, to control themselves from what they just want to naturally lust after and to do. It said, so he'll let them. That's why if somebody wants to believe what they want to believe, after you tell them what Yahweh's word says, then you go ahead. They can make whatever choice they want. Now, and if it's not going to keep them out of the kingdom, stop going back and forth with people. When you get to the point where you've discussed it, then you agree to disagree and then you move on. Yahweh didn't tell us to sit up and prove nobody wrong. He didn't tell us to sit up and prove nobody right. He said, tell my word and tell it to the point to where they can be clarified about what Yahweh is saying. Then after that, it's up to them. There's no arm twisting going on in here. Yahweh said, even as they did not want to retain him in their knowledge, he said, okay, fine. He gave over this reprobate mind, this sterile mind, to do those things which are not convenient. Because how many children can two women that marry each other and two men that so-called marry each other produce? And they're not married. Man just invented this thing where they fantasize and thinking they got married. How many children can they produce? Unless they triangulate and bring somebody else in, and then they got these defiled and unbelieving relationships where you got two women up over a child, boy or girl, and then you got two men up over a boy or girl. And one of them calling himself the husband, and one of them calling himself the wife. The woman calling herself a husband, and this man calling himself a wife. Defiled and unbelieving. Said, but they started, they didn't want to retain Elohim, so he said, fine, do those things that are not convenient. I give you over to that sterile mind. Verse 29.
Verse 29, being filled with all unrighteousness, fornication, wickedness, covetousness, maliciousness, full of envy, murder, debate, deceit, malignity, whisperers.
All right, so now these are all demons. This is the enemy's demonic agents right here. These are all fallen angels. Unrighteousness, fornication demon, wickedness demon, covetousness demon, maliciousness demon, envy demon, murder demon, debate demon, deceit demon, malignity demon, whisperers demon. All right, verse 30.
Verse 30, backbiters, haters of Elohim, despiteful, proud, boasters, inventors of evil things, disobedient to parents.
So if you thought it wasn't spiritual, now he's telling you right here. Backbiter, backbiting demon, haters of Elohim. There you go. You brought Yahweh in. And they really hate his word. They hate Yahweh instructing them and telling them what to do. Why? Because they are unbelievers. Unbelief is different from doubt. Doubt is when you don't know. Unbelief is after you heard it and you choose not to believe. You are unwilling to believe. You are unwilling to do. Here's the despiteful demon, the proud demon, the boasting demon, the inventor of evil thing demon, the disobedient to parent demon. Verse 31.
Verse 31, without understanding, covenant breakers, without natural affection, implacable, unmerciful.
All right, so you got the without understanding demon. Not that the person can have it, but the unbeliever don't wanna believe it after they heard it. Reject it. The covenant breaking demon, without natural affection demon, implacable demon, the unmerciful demon. Verse 32.
Verse 32, who, knowing the judgment of Elohim, that they which commit such things are worthy of death, not only do the same, but have pleasure in them that do them.
Now, so after you heard Yahweh's word, and then you gonna stand up and talk about how, yeah, I go to the Sodomite parade, every year. Yeah, I just like to see, what weird stuff they gonna wear and how they look. He said that after you have heard such things, knowing the mitzvah, the judgment of Elohim, that they which commit such things are worthy of mavet. Said you not only do the same, but you have pleasure in them that do them. That's because you in unbelief. Galatians the 4th chapter. You are an unbeliever. You got that unbelieving demon. And the defiled demon. And all that other, those companions, they come together as a group. And you let the unbelieving demon stay in there long enough, he gonna say, okay, come. And then get another, the defiled, okay, come. Bring the hatred in, come on. That's why that brother ended up, 6,000 or more demons, legion. Don't tell him how many demons, because you let one of them stay, say, come on. So unbelief is a demonic agent of the enemy. Galatians the 4th chapter, we're going to read verses 19 to 21. Galatians chapter 4, verses 19 to 21.
Galatians chapter 4, verse 19. My little children, of whom I travail in birth again until...
I think I'm on Galatians chapter 5. I think I did. Yes, chapter 5. Sorry, Galatians chapter 5, excuse me. Galatians chapter 5 and verses 19 to 21.
Galatians chapter 5 and verse 19.
Yes.
Now the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lasciviousness.
Okay, now, this is talking about demons. These are talking about the fallen angels. These are talking about Hasatan's crew. Said, now the works of demons joined in with an unbeliever in their human body, they appear as this: adultery demon, fornication demon, uncleanness demon, lasciviousness demon. Verse 20.
Verse 20, idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulations, wrath, strife, seditions, heresies. Verse 21, envyings, murders, drunkenness, revelings, and such like, of the which I tell you before, as I have told you in time past, that they which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of Elohim.
All right, bless the mighty Yah. So he said, here's this idolatry demon. And that's what the unbelief demon starts out first, with people worshiping themselves, valuing what they think, what they said above what Yahweh said after they've heard it. Got the idolatry demon, idolizing themselves, the witchcraft demon, hatred demon, variance demon, emulation demon, wrath demon, strife demon, sedition demon, heresy demon, envying demon, the murder demon, the drunken demon, the reveling demon. Just always got to keep some drama going. That's what they call it, drama. You got your drama daddy and your drama mama. And you got your drama children, because they're being taught from a child. Keep the drama going. He said, and such like. So that's not the extent of the demons. There's more. He said, I told you before, and I'm telling you again. Those people that are unbelieving and they do those type of things, and they co-host them demons and have a party with those demons and get down with those demons and are comfortable with those demons, they shall not go to the kingdom of Elohim. Now, if you don't care about going to the kingdom of Elohim, this is not talking to you. You keep doing what you're doing. And Yahweh guarantees you, you will not go to the kingdom of Elohim. Go to 2 Corinthians 13th chapter. So the difference between doubt and unbelief is chosen evil. Unbelief is chosen evil after the word has been heard. And all the works of the flesh are demonic agents of the enemy. 2 Corinthians 13th chapter. And it's just humanity acting out what the demons tell them to do. Is Yahweh gave Ra'ah that revelation, puppets on a string. 2 Corinthians 13, let's read verses 3 to 9, please. 2 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 3 to 9.
2 Corinthians chapter 13 and verse 3. Seek ye a proof of Mashiach speaking in me, which to you word is not weak, but is mighty in you. Verse 4. For though he was crucified through weakness, yet he liveth by the power of Elohim. For we also are weak in him, but we shall live with him by the power of Elohim toward you. Verse 5. Examine yourselves whether ye be in the faith. Prove your own self. Know ye not your own selves how that Yahshua Mashiach is in you, except ye be reprobates?
All right, praise the mighty Yah. So here's this man Yahweh saying, okay, you looking for a proof that Mashiach is speaking in me. He said, hey, Yahshua was crucified through weakness. He allowed himself to be crucified. He could have stopped it if he wanted to. But he said, hey, we're weak in him. In other words, we're submitted. We're believers. We're submitted to what Yahweh said. We believe what Yahweh said. We're going to do what Yahweh said. He said, examine your own self. Whether you be in YHWH. Are you a believer or an unbeliever? Prove your own self. He said, Yah, are you not your own selves? How that Yahshua Mashiach is in you? Except you be a reprobate. Except you be sterile soil. Except you hear the word and don't believe it. All right, verse 6.
Verse 6. But I trust that ye shall know that we are not reprobates. Verse 7. Now I pray to Elohim that ye do no evil, not that we should appear approved, but that ye should do that which is honest, though we be as reprobates. Verse 8. For we can do nothing against the truth, but for the truth. Verse 9. For we are glad when we are weak, and ye are strong. And this also we wish, even your perfection.
All right, so we want people to grow up. We want people to choose to be believers. But if they don't, then they're just not believing what the scripture just said. We can do nothing against YHWH, the truth, but for YHWH. So in their own mind, idolizing themselves, listening to that unbelieving demon, they think they can do nothing. They can do something against the truth. Go to 1 Thessalonians, the 5th chapter. So doubt is being unable to be sure whether what Yahweh said is true because it has not been heard. That's the difference between doubt and unbelief. Doubt is being unable to be sure whether what Yahweh said is true because it has not been heard. And he said, you know, how can they hear without a Yarah, without a Moreh, without a Ra'ah? They can't. That's why he raised up people to tell them his word. And once the word is heard, then it's on the person whether they choose to believe or choose to be an unbeliever. So Yahweh has no issue with proving what he said is true. He has no issue with that. with us proving what he said is true. 1 Thessalonians 5, let's read verse 21, please.
1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 21. Prove all things, hold fast that which is good.
All right, he said in his word, you're supposed to prove all things. He said, then you hold fast to what's good. In other words, when you find out that's what I said, he said, hold fast to that. That's good. Go to Malachi, the 3rd chapter. So he has no issue with you proving his word is true. Malachi chapter 3. But as a matter of fact, you would be naive for somebody to tell you he said something in his word, and then you just gonna take it at face value. You just gonna take what they said, he said, she said, word they might have thought they heard was said in the word. Malachi, the 3rd chapter and verse 10. Malachi. Yahweh has no issue with you proving what he said in his word, whether it be true. Malachi 3 and 10, please.
Malachi chapter 3 and verse 10. Bring ye all the tithes into the storehouse, that there may be meat in my house, and prove me now herewith, saith Yahweh Sabaoth, if I will not open you the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing, that there shall not be room enough to receive it.
So here's he saying again, now hey, prove me. Prove all things. Prove what I said in the word. I have no issue, said, prove me. Hey, pay your tithes and offerings and see, don't you be better off, don't you get a blessing. So let's look at this English word prove in this verse in Malachi.
The English word prove is the Hebrew primitive root word bakam, found at Strong's Blue Letter Bible number 974. Brown Driver Briggs Hebrew English lexicon defines prove as examine, scrutinize, try, search, through and through. Prove, test with the metaphor of gold, with the metaphor of Elohim testing, with the metaphor of God testing persons, their ways, brain and hearts of man testing or tempting God. The ear trying words to be tried, prove the trial that has been made with grace and favor.
All right, so this prove, it means, Yahweh said, examine me. Examine my word. Scrutinize it, search it out, investigate it. Go to Revelation, the 21st chapter. So the difference between doubt and unbelief is being unwilling to believe and resisting believing what Yahweh said. Revelation 21. The difference between doubt and unbelief is being unwilling to believe and resisting believing what Yahweh said. And there are people that imagining Yahweh going to be twisting their arm to have them do right. No, it's not. Or just going to be dragging him, kicking and screaming to the kingdom. No, he's not. That's a lie that Hasatan has, the enemy has out here. Him and his demons, his unbelieving demons. Revelation 21, verse 8.
Revelation chapter 21 and verse 8. But the fearful and unbelieving and the abominable and murderers and whoremongers and sorcerers and idolaters and all liars shall have their part in the lake which burneth with fire and brimstone, which is the second death.
All right, so now it's talking about Hasatan's agents, the enemy's agents, his demons, fallen angels, and it's talking about people too. Because they invited the demons in their unbelief. You got the fearful demon, fearful people, the unbelieving demon, unbelieving people, abominable demon, abominable people, murdering demon, murdering people, whoremongering demons, whoremongering people, sorcerer demons, sorcerer people, idolater demons, idolater people, lying demons, lying people. Shall have their part in the lake of fire, which burns with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. Go to Matthew the 10th chapter. So fear, unbelief, abomination, murders, etc. were first demonic agents of the enemy. And then people adopted them. People took them on. People started hosting them. And that's why Yahweh said he had enlarged the lake of fire. He only made the lake of fire, second death, for the devil and his demons. And then people went to jumping on the bandwagon like they had lost their mind, which they did lose their mind, to jump on the bandwagon with the demon. But see, some people are so prideful and they get that rush out of playing on people's emotions, and they get that rush out of hurting people and manipulating people. But it's the demon in them that gets the rush. But either way, they can control it if they wanted to, but they like doing things the demonic way. Matthew 10, we're going to read verses 5 to 8, please.
Matthew chapter 10 and verse 5. These 12 Yahshua sent forth and commanded them, saying, Go not into the way of the Gentiles, and into any city of the Samaritans enter ye not. Verse 6, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Yisrael. Verse 7, and as ye go, preach, saying the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Verse 8, heal the sick, cleanse the lepers, raise the dead, cast out devils. Freely ye have received, freely give.
All right, so here's Yahshua giving the believers, his disciples, the ability to do some things in the earth. And he said, heal sick, cleanse the lepers, raise the dead, cast out devils, cast out demons. Freely you have received, freely give. So they go cast out these unbelieving demons, number one. And then these other sicknesses, they also go out once those are cast out. Heal the sick. So there's demons that are in charge of sickness. But he said to tell them to preach, saying that the kingdom is at hand. So this is what believers do.
In the name of Yahshua.
Open up your eyes.
In the name of Yahshua.
You're no longer blind.
In the name of Yahshua.
Behold, standing by.
In the name of Yahshua. Yahshua.
Truth and light.
In the name of Yahshua.
Open up your eyes.
In the name of Yahshua.
You're no longer blind.
In the name of Yahshua.
Behold, standing by.
In the name of Yahshua. Yahshua. In the name of Yahshua.
Open up your eyes.
In the name of Yahshua.
You're no longer blind.
In the name of Yahshua.
Behold, standing by.
In the name of Yahshua. Yahshua.
Truth and light.
In the name of Yahshua.
Open up your eyes.
In the name of Yahshua.
You're no longer blind.
In the name of Yahshua.